As promised, KRBL is the next company on our radar. They posted a decent set of numbers. Revenue jumped by 15%, witnessed some kind of pressure on gross margins as basmati input cost increased. The domestic revenues grew by 19%, while exports revenue witnessed a growth of close to 11%. It was fully driven by volumes. To discuss this, what's the way ahead as well, we're joined by Mr. Ashish Jain, the CFO of KRBL. Well, good morning, Mr. Jain. Thanks so much for joining in. The numbers were decent, but more than the numbers, I wanted to focus on the buyback. Because that's been the plea from the investor community for the last many years. I recall asking Mr. Mittal maybe 5 years back, why don't you do a buyback? And he said, maybe we'll take note of it. When I spoke to you in March this year as well, we asked you about buyback. So it's good to see you all have gone ahead with this buyback. So a couple of details out here first. What is the total cash in your books as of now, sir? The updated number?
The total cash in the books is around 1,200 crores.
1,200 crores, right? And the total buyback, I understand, will be around 350 crores approximately.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you think that you would have liked to do a larger buyback, to give more confidence out there? And also in this buyback, will the promoter group participate?
Yeah, so, in terms of the size of the buyback, it is 325 crores, that's excluding taxes, etc. And in terms of how we arrived at the size of the buyback, we looked at our fund requirements and we realized that, we have some surplus available for distribution, not for all the time to come, but at least for now. And that's how the decision on the size got taken. Now, in terms of the promoter buyback, so we'll be releasing a public announcement which will have all the details.
But the intent is for the promoter to participate. I'll tell you why, sir. Because you're doing this buyback of close to around, I think, 500 rupees approximately. Well, you'll have always maintained that the share is undervalued. That could be one of the reasons why a company goes ahead and does a buyback, and also surplus cash. You've given us a rationale about why you intend to use only around 325 crores. But if a positive signal wants to be sent out, then the promoter entity ideally should not participate. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so, I see it differently. I think for us, this is fundamentally a very good tool to distribute surplus funds to the shareholders. The other tool, of course, is to continue giving dividends, which we continued this year, subject to the shareholder approval. So that's really the principal agenda. Now, in terms of whether promoter participation, should they or should they not, I think that's a totally separate question.
Ashish, hi. Good morning. Prashant this side. So let's move away from the buyback to some fundamentals. So the government banned the export of non-basmati rice, right? Does that in any way open up any opportunities for you in the basmati segment to target some of those markets? They're completely different segments, one. And go on.
Yeah, no, so you're right. I mean, the restriction has come about recently. From our point of view, we don't see it as a major opportunity. We see the two sets of consumers as very different. Consumers have very developed taste of rice, what they want to consume, and therefore the migration from one to the other is not something that we see very often. However, I think overall there is a fair bit of anticipation in terms of what is happening to the global rice market. So I just want to touch on that. So there we see the following picture emerging. Now, when we see forecasts from various informed agencies, we are yet to see a downward revision on the overall forecast. So despite the fact that there are some major rice producing countries who are reporting deficient production because of El Nino, etc. However, the overall forecasts are yet to change. Sure, the prices have gone up practically for the last 12 months, 15 years, and more so recently. But like we've responded recently, we expect the prices to come down and settle down. So we see the surge as a short-term one. And on our business, direct impact of non-basmati ban, very minimal.
Okay. Just to take that point forward, I mean, if you look at in the Indian context as well, because India is a huge exporter of rice, at least was before this ban came through. So sowing data shows that, for pulses, for example, sowing is down some 9%, 9-10%. I think for rice also it should be down. So when you say there are many who believe that actually, we will be in a situation where there perhaps may be at the margin some shortages, etc. So prices actually go up, not come down. So just wanted you to respond to that.
Sure. So, if you look at the latest rice sowing data, at this point, it is about 3 to 4% up over the sowing at the same time last year. So, if we take this as an early indicator, there is no need to form a view that the production this year or the crop this year will be deficient. Of course, there is a long way to go, and there are several agroclimatic factors at work, but at least on that indicator which you mentioned, there doesn't seem to have any cause of concern, and which is one principal reason why I believe that prices should settle in the future.
Okay. Ashish, hi, good morning. So let's come down to the numbers, right? Just a couple of numbers from your end. What could the volume growth look like for you in the second and third quarter of this year? You did about 11% in Q1.
Yeah. So, we are continuing to see strong volume growth in the domestic market. I think a couple of factors there are playing up. Some of them are connected to what we are trying to do in terms of conversion from loose to package, etc. So the domestic market, we continue to see as strong. Export is a little bit of an evolving situation. We are doing a distribution refresh in two of our key markets, and we expect that to settle down by the end of quarter two. So quarter three, quarter four, one should see, a step up from quarter one numbers on our export. So overall,
overall, what would it be? Would it be in high teens, the volume growth? And can you break it up for us? Domestic, since you said domestic is very strong, will it be in high teens for Q3 and Q4? And also on the margin front, do you hold on to 20%?
Yeah. See, in terms of margins, we've said earlier as well, I think over longer term, we look at somewhere between 15 to 20%, somewhere I would say around 17 to 18% as a long-term average. We stick to that as a long-term estimate. Now, in terms of volume growth, I think we are positive on the domestic picture. Export is an evolving situation. We'll have a clearer picture at the end of quarter two.
And what about the revenue growth, sir?
Yeah, so I think it looks like it's on track. But again, clearer picture by end of quarter two that's when I'll want to come back to you with a firmer number.
And I think by 2025, we have a target of being around 7,500 to 8,000 crores, right, of revenues?
Yeah, so if you look at the drivers of that, I think they seem to be falling in place. On the domestic side, we've seen very strong response to our non-basmati initiative. The revenue is small, but it's grown by 60% on a year-on-year basis. So that's well on track. The basmati consumption itself is growing, and that is a positive factor. Export, we've done well last year, and we hope to continue with that. So I would say we are on track on that.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for joining in and all the best. That's KRBL with their view on the overall business and how it could shape up from here. But Mitesh is back with us in the studio. Mitesh, I think it's going as per plan, right? The expectation was that we would be slightly weak. And here we are. The Nifty is now down almost 80 points. It's completely dragged down by the Bank Nifty. What do you do at this juncture below the 19,500 mark?
So, Sonia, I think the level which I'm watching, for some kind of accelerated supply towards 19,200 would be around 19,425. So that's where a trend line comes in. I think if we start breaking below that, I would expect and suspect another correction of 200 plus points. So 19,200 then could be visited. So till then, trading with stock specific prices, we have been holding put options in both the indices. We continue to do that. And on the stock side, I have one buy and one sell call. IRCTC, if you look at the first hour of movement, is giving some kind of a breakout on intraday hourly charts. So that's a buy with a stop at 655 for targets of 695. And Concord has had a negative gap down opening. It's trading near the 200 average, but I suspect more downside could happen. So that's a sell with a stop at 687 for targets of roughly around 630.
Mitesh, sorry, name like Supreme Industries, any thoughts? That's a rocket this morning.
Oh yes, in fact, if you look at the last few weeks of data, Prashant, the stock has risen from 2,400 now to 4,200 in a matter of less than 3 weeks. Very, very overbought. So I think difficult to enter over here, but I can suggest a trailing stop loss for people who are holding this. 3760 is the level. It's still 10% down, and the stock itself is up 8% today. But 3765, I think, is the medium-term trend reversal level. Till that doesn't happen, sky is the limit because this is in all-time high territories.
One more name, Genus Power. It seems to have finally broken out of this, 180, 190 odd level where it was for the last, actually since the beginning of July. Genus Power.
Yes, a very good breakout. In fact, today morning is given a gap up and made a fresh swing high. So this gives you a good entry point with a minimal risk. I would suggest a stop at about 190 and a target of around 240 in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right, Mitesh, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for joining us. And it's a pleasure, as always. We'll take a